Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. Today I'll be going through every pick in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft and my opinion on it. This will be a three-part video because I want to go into depth in the picks and I wouldn't be able to do that if I had to run through 30 picks. If you're wondering why I said 30, that's because I'm not including the Green Bay Packers, given that I discussed them in my video titled The Green Bay Packers Suck, which I will leave a link to in the description. Number 1 overall, Trayvon Walker was selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not much of a shock there. I mean, it was kind of between Hutchinson and Walker, if you ask most analysts. I prefer Thibodeau over Walker, but most analysts wouldn't have said that, so it's not a shock. I think Hutchinson would have been better to pair with Josh Allen, but Trayvon Walker is a pretty good pick as well. Number 2 overall, the Detroit Lions selected Aiden Hutchinson. Now, this one is really good for Aiden because he doesn't have to move. He was playing in Michigan, so he's in the same city still. And this was a great value pick for the Detroit Lions. Again, I thought he'd go number 1 overall. So, if they can get him at number 2, that was really good on them. And he'll be a force on their defense, hopefully, for years to come. Number 3 overall, the Houston Texans selected Derek Stingley. Here's where I start to have to go more in depth. Because Derek Stingley was not seen as the top corner in the draft. That was Ahmad Gardner. In fact, in my rankings, he's only the 3rd best defensive back in the draft, after both Gardner and Kyle Hamilton, who fell a bit. But the Texans decide to go for him at number 3 overall. Bit of a surprise. I don't think corner was their most needed position. I know they kind of need every position, but I think they would have been better off going for Thibodeau or an offensive lineman, Evan Neal, given that later on, I'll talk about that later, but they draft an offensive lineman. You'd think right now they should have gone for Thibodeau and probably could have still gotten Stingley when they were picking later on. Number 4 overall, the New York Jets selected Ahmad Gardner. Yes! I got this one right in my final mock draft. What a joy. And it's not much of a shocker, because the New York Jets secondary wasn't all that great. And Ahmad Gardner was seen as the best corner in the draft, and I think this was great for the New York Jets. They're lucky the Texans didn't grab Ahmad Gardner, or they'd be wondering what the heck to do. Trade down, I guess? Anyways, this was great for the New York Jets. They had a great draft. I'll come back to that a bit later. But just amazing all around, especially the first round. So, great on them. Number 5 overall, the New York Giants drafted Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, this one was a surprise. Mostly because they were expected to take an offensive lineman with this pick. Because they're none off the board. I don't know why they didn't go for Evan Neal or Ikem Ekwonu. It makes no sense to me. No sense whatsoever. But Thibodeau was a pretty good value pick there, in my opinion. Most would say they stretched and could have gotten him at 7, which was probably likely. And I'll come to that later, but they couldn't have gotten Ekwonu at 7. So, not so sure. Number 6 overall, the Carolina Panthers drafted, well, I kind of mentioned it a minute ago, Ikem Ekwonu. Now, this one surprised me, because they need a quarterback. Absolutely need. And they do not have a pick until the 4th round. So, they can't rely on Sam Darnold, and a 4th rounder is not going to cut it. So, they better trade up into the 3rd or 2nd round to grab a quarterback, because that's really what they need. I thought they would trade down, honestly, for a quarterback. That would have made the most sense. But whether it is Sam Darnold or their quarterback of the future, once they go 0-17 next year under Sam Darnold, then they'll be happy to have Ekwonu on that offensive line. 7 overall, the New York Giants drafted Evan Neal. Okay, they did go offensive line, thankfully. And now they've got Andrew Thomas on the left side and Evan Neal on the right side. Slowly but surely, they're actually building an offensive line for Daniel Jones or their future quarterback they draft next year. So, I quite like this pick. I viewed Evan Neal as the best offensive lineman in the draft. But if they viewed Ekwonu, then they should have taken him at 5. Number 8 overall, the Atlanta Falcons select Drake London. I was shocked about this pick, and not even half as shocked as I'll be about some of the picks soon enough. But I thought the Falcons GM was smarter than this. Does he not realize that most rebuilding teams don't have a ton of top receiving weapons, and they're going for the number 1 overall pick next year? Their defense is trash. Marcus Mariota, we'll see. He hasn't started a game since 2019. I like him, but don't know. Offensive line's absolute trash. And you still have Calvin Ridley at receiver. I know he's suspended for a year, but you've also got Kyle Pitts. So your receiving core would have been fine for a year. Look at the Texans' receiving core. Their best receiver is Brandon Cooks, who's not as good as Kyle Pitts. Then you've got Nico Collins, who's fine, better than whoever the Falcons had. But still, could have drafted someone in a later round. I think they totally should have gone on the defense, because we don't know what next year's draft is going to be like. But it's not that hard to find a good receiver in each draft. What is harder is to find a bunch of good defensive line and linebackers. Number 9 overall, the Seattle Seahawks select Charles Cross. This one does not surprise me. I mean, Ekwonu was taken earlier. I projected him to the Seahawks. But since he was taken, they still need an offensive lineman. And they didn't go quarterback. Not surprised there. I think they're confident enough in Drew Lock for 1 year, so we'll see. And Charles Cross can easily revamp that offensive line after losing Dwayne Brown, amongst others, in free agency. That's what they truly need. Number 10 overall, the New York Jets drafted Garrett Wilson. Another I got right. One of only very few that I got right. But both were Jets so far. And again, I'm really good at picking the Jets, apparently. Anyways, this one also doesn't surprise me, because I picked it, and they need a receiver. I don't think it's their biggest need, but they clearly wanted one. And now you've got Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. That's not half bad. And you've also got a couple other, Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios, C.J. Uzomah, and Tyler Conklin, who will all fit into that offense. So, if only they didn't have Zach Wilson as a quarterback. So guys, that felt like a really short video, but it'd be so much longer if I'd done 30 picks with you guys. So, for now, thanks for watching.